So, I went over to a friend's house, and he lives close to a national forest. We decided to start a fire and just relax for a bit outside. He had to go see what his sister was doing and walked off. I stayed and watched the fire, and it slowly died to embers in about 5 minutes, right after he left. It was a blazing fire, and no way that it should have went out that fast. So, it goes out, I put music on, and I start to hear almost like joints popping, kind of like bubble wrap. I thought nothing of it, but it kept getting closer. I turn around with my flashlight, and I see this creature with no eyes, ears, or mouth. Basically, a crawler. I jump up and drop my phone, quickly run to my free porch, and look back, and it just stares at me, and I see his fingers around each of the tree. Fingers 8 inches or longer. Then it bolts off, and it was so deformed that it ran like a cheetah, without making noises. I tell my friend, and we go look for his sister, and hear noises like voices and animal sounds around us, and keep seeing things. We get them, and they don't believe us. We walk back to the house, and everything seems fine, but after a while, my back feels hit and aches a little. We lift up my shirt, and there are scratch marks, but no blood. It looked almost like whip marks, and me and my friend are nail biters. I didn't feel any pain while we were looking. This is possibly the scariest thing I've ever experienced. My friend said that he has seen that creature twice, and is not sure if it is a skinwalker, but it is the best thing you can match to it. His dad has never seen it, but hears stuff all the time, and the animals, well, they will start freaking out when nobody is around. His sister says we are messing with them, and I don't really care, since I have a clear conscience on finding them. Also, I had to walk about 3 miles at 2 a.m., and I'm 250 pounds. My fat butt is not doing this for fun if I see danger. I'm also working on my weight, so I'm glad I wasn't 300 pounds like I once was. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and there is a stretch of road between me and my girlfriend's house that goes through some ranches and thick wooded area. My girlfriend and I were driving back towards my house around 10 p.m., and while I was rounding a corner near the beginning of the woods, I swerved as I saw what looked like a tall, skinny, pale-skinned person standing by the side of the road and walking into the road. When I looked in my rearview mirror to see what it was, I couldn't see anything. But after I asked my girlfriend about it, she was clearly shaken, and she said that she saw it too. We decided to stop talking about it for the time being and continue to drive deeper into the woods back home. About 15 minutes down the road, we came across a fresh deer carcass on the side of the road. And while I noticed the deer carcass alone as I was focusing on the narrow road, my girlfriend swears that she saw the same figure bent over the carcass. I drove by the carcass for weeks after when I went back to her house. We've both seen a lot of weird stuff on that small stretch of road, including more on that specific drive, but nothing else that I think I'd be worth mentioning or could be a crawler. I'm not sure where it came from. No caves I'm aware of are around, or if it was more than one out there, but I know to always be aware of what else is on that road with me late at night. So, for a while now, I've been calling crawlers skin gates. I feel like they go by a lot of names, so I don't know what to call it. My sighting occurred back in 2013, at the end of summer. I was about 20 years old. When this happened, I had no clue that these things existed in folklore, or even horror movies. I don't watch horror movies still to this day, because I feel like they just messed with my head. So what I saw, I had nothing to base off. I thought I was crazy for a while. This happened at my parents' house out in the country. They have a couple of acres of land and orchards are right behind them. Hundreds of acres surrounding them, and about 4 miles away, there's a really good-sized river. there's also canals everywhere out there. My family grows weed, and it was about time to harvest. So, on this night, my dad and uncle decided to go out and asked my cousin and his friends to watch over the crop. I decided to tag along because I wanted to hang out with my cousin's friend, who, at the time, I had a big crush on. So we're out there, probably an hour or two, and we hear commotion out in the orchards. It doesn't sound like any animals we know, and it was pretty loud for a couple of seconds. It dies down, and we waited for about a minute or two to go check it out. 2 people stay, and the rest of us decided to go see what's up. It's a full moon out that night, and for me, it seems pretty much like daytime. It's easy to see, and everything is lit up. Orchards usually have a couple of dirt paths that are a bit bigger than the rows themselves for easier transport for machines, sprayers, and whatnot. So we take one and walk up it a ways. I squat here and there to see below the tree line to see if I can make out any humans or cars that are not supposed to be there. And there's nothing. We're about 2 orchards in and decide to head back. Right then, I get the worst feeling in my gut. It's like this primal fear that makes me want to run, but I felt frozen. I looked to my right, about 4 to 5 rows in, and I saw this thing. It was tall and gangly, about 8 feet tall, and it was walking parallel to us. I could see its side profile of its face, and I make out sunken cheeks and what looks like hollow eye sockets, but deep. Its skin is a grayish white, and the skin texture reminded me of a dolphin skin. It was flesh and bones, but not in a starving way. More like how it's built naturally. I don't know why, but it never once looked at me. I really wanted to run, but I felt like if I did, it would have given chase. So I stayed next to my friends and didn't say anything to them, because they like trouble. We rounded a corner and it disappeared from my view. I questioned myself a lot. My most vivid memory, though, is seeing the changing shadows on its face and head while walking through the trees. I haven't seen once since, and I hope I never do. Makes me question, though, what else is out there that I don't want to find out. My dog typically sleeps right around my arm. His head rests on my shoulder, so he is facing the window. When I sleep, the back of my head faces the window. Anyway, it was just nearing 5:30 a.m. The dog wakes me up with extremely aggressive growling at the window. This growling I've only ever heard when he fights with other dogs. I was roused and I tried to calm him back to sleep. Within a couple of seconds, the growling turned into howls and barks. I looked outside the window and my heart rate shot through the roof. The property line from my house to my neighbors is roughly 60 to 70 yards. Is 60 to 70 yards. I competed at state for track for the 100 open, 400, and 2 relays, so I can confirm this creature's speed was shocking. It covered the yard in no less than 3 seconds. Gray skin, long arms almost down to its knees, an elongated face, and anorexic-looking legs. It ran by swinging its arms like, I don't know, like a buffoon, not a runner's form. After collecting myself, I burst into my dad's room. I startled him, but told him to get outside with me. We briskly got outside with handguns as I tried to explain what I saw. There were no footprints or marks, as white-tailed deer are frequently in our yard. 37 years ago, my mother and I saw an entity outside looking in at us through the window. It was hairless, pale white, huge bulging black eyes, and it had teeth that were very small, very well spaced, skinny and pointed, almost kind of like an anglerfish. We hid for hours until we heard my father drive towards the house. We both looked out the window to see the being stand up from behind a wall. It was much taller than a human. It was hiding behind that wall, and I believe waiting for us to come outside. My father drove up the driveway, and we saw the silhouette of its body from the back. It was hunched over, staring at the car. My father saw it in the headlights and what it looked like perfectly. He drove at it, and it ran away into the brush around the house. It never made a sound. It seemed smart, but cautious, and the overwhelming feeling I got that night, that it was vicious and very violent. My parents spoke with police as we were so horrified about the encounter. After speaking to police or the KGB, we were relocated and forced to never speak of the event to anybody. Within 30 hours, I was living in a new home, nearly 100 kilometers away. I have searched for so many years for an explanation. I've spoken with government officials. I have interviewed with people who lived near our home, and that was about 10 years ago. I still have no answers,